You're in a public bathroom. You close the stall door, and then you notice it, the gap. Right there at the edge of the door, wide enough to make eye contact with someone walking past. Wide enough to feel deeply, uncomfortably exposed. And you think, who designed this? Why would anyone build a door that doesn't actually close? Here's the thing. Someone did design it. Very deliberately. And the reasons behind that gap go much deeper than you think. Welcome to Question Everything. Today, we're finding out why public bathroom stall doors have gaps and why the answer reveals something surprisingly fascinating about safety, history, cost, and the way we build the world around us. Scene 2. The Frank Lloyd Wright connection. To understand the gap, you have to go back over 100 years to a mail-order soap company in Buffalo, New York. In 1903, one of the most famous architects in American history, Frank Lloyd Wright, designed a building called the Larkin Building. It was revolutionary. Open floor plans, air conditioning, built-in office furniture, and bathrooms with a design feature nobody had seen before. Stall partitions that didn't touch the floor. Wright's reason was simple. Easier to clean, easier to build. And it worked so well that factories, offices, and businesses across America started copying it. By the mid-20th century, the off-the-floor bathroom stall had become the default design for every public restroom in the country. Not because anyone decided it was the best design, but because one famous architect did it first, and everyone else followed. 100 years later, you were still sitting in the design Frank Lloyd Wright built for a soap company. Scene 3. The money reason. But Wright's original idea was only part of the story, because the gap stuck around for a much more powerful reason. Money. A standard bathroom stall partition cost between $600 and $1,500. A floor-to-ceiling fully enclosed private stall costs significantly more. And the gap makes the cheaper version possible in ways most people never think about. Here is the problem with building a door that goes all the way to the floor in a public restroom. The floor slopes. Every commercial restroom floor is built at a slight angle, sloping toward a central drain so water runs away during cleaning. A door that goes to the floor on a sloped surface would drag, jam, and break within months. The gap solves this instantly. The door hangs above the slope. It never touches the floor. It never jams. One standard size. Every bathroom. Everywhere. That is why the gap exists at the bottom. Not to expose you. To save money and survive a sloped floor. Scene 4. The safety reasons, but here's where it gets more interesting. Because the gap is not just about cost. It is also genuinely about keeping you safe. Think about what happens if someone collapses inside a fully enclosed bathroom stall. A heart attack, a seizure, a diabetic episode. If the door goes all the way to the floor and the person falls against it, nobody can get in. Nobody can see what's happening. Nobody can help until it is too late. The gap at the bottom means that if someone collapses, their feet are visible. Staff can see something is wrong. Emergency services can be called. The gap is not just a privacy failure. It is a passive safety system built into a door. And the side gaps, the ones that make eye contact possible, serve a similar function. They deter drug use. They deter criminal activity. They make it significantly harder to do something you shouldn't be doing when anyone walking past can see a sliver of what's happening inside. Researchers and designers call this passive surveillance. The gap is uncomfortable. That discomfort is intentional. Scene 5. The cleaning and airflow reason. There are 2 more reasons the gap has survived a century of bathroom design. And both of them are things you benefit from every time you use a public restroom, without ever knowing it. The first is cleaning. A janitor with a mop cannot fit a mop head into a fully enclosed stall. They cannot reach the corners. They cannot clean under the door. With the gap at the bottom, a single mop stroke covers the entire floor, across every stall, in one continuous motion. Without that gap, public bathrooms would be significantly less clean than they already are. The second is airflow. A fully enclosed stall with no gap is essentially a sealed box. A sealed box in a public bathroom traps everything, every odor, every particle, every bacterium in the air. The gap creates a passive ventilation system. Air moves in at the bottom, circulates through the stall, and exits at the top. It is not glamorous, but it is the reason a public bathroom is breathable at all. Scene 6. The 8A connection. There is one final reason the gap exists, and this one is written into American law. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires that wheelchair-accessible bathroom stalls have a minimum floor clearance of 9 inches beneath the door and partition panels. This allows wheelchair footrests to pass under the door without obstruction. It allows staff to assist users who need help without the door becoming a barrier. Any bathroom built to 8A compliance standards must have a gap, not as an aesthetic choice, as a legal requirement. The gap that makes you uncomfortable is the same gap that makes the bathroom accessible to someone in a wheelchair. Design, it turns out, is almost never about just one thing. Scene 7. The rest of the world. Here's the part of this story that will make you look at every bathroom differently for the rest of your life. The gap is almost entirely an American design. Travel to Japan, Germany, the Netherlands, or most of Northern Europe, and you will find something almost unrecognizable. Full floor-to-ceiling bathroom stalls, solid walls, doors that seal completely, no gap at the bottom, no gap at the side, complete privacy. These stalls cost more to build. They are harder to clean. They require better ventilation systems. But they exist, they work, and the people who use them report dramatically less anxiety in public restrooms. The United States chose a different path, not because the gap is better, but because it was cheaper, easier, and Frank Lloyd Wright did it first. And once a standard is set, once every contractor and every architect is trained on the same design, changing it requires a collective decision that nobody has ever been motivated enough to make. The gap is not inevitable. It is just what happened, and what kept happening, for 100 years. Scene 8, the closing. So the next time you close a stall door and feel that familiar flash of exposure through the gap, remember what you're actually looking at. A decision made in 1903 by a famous architect designing a soap company's office building. A cost calculation made by manufacturers who needed one size to fit every bathroom in the country. A passive safety system that has helped emergency services reach people who collapsed when nobody knew they were in trouble. A legal requirement that makes bathrooms accessible to people who need them. And a ventilation system keeping the air around you breathable. The gap that makes you uncomfortable is doing 5 different jobs simultaneously. It just never bothered to explain itself. I hope this one made you look at the world around you a little differently. If it did, hit that like button. It really does help the channel grow. And subscribe to Question Everything for more stories hiding inside the ordinary things you've never thought to question. Thanks for watching.